What is going on, everybody? On here, and it's a little late. I actually got tied up watching the Gundam prices move. For those of you who don't know, there's been a massive just Bandai buyout across the board. Dragon Ball, Gundam, obviously One Piece continues to zoom. A couple people said Union Arena, they're waiting for Digimon. I really don't touch those games, quite honestly, but it's been absolutely nuts. So let's get started. So first of all, Dragon Ball Fusion World has gone absolutely batshit crazy. I believe the catalyst is they just announced a new anime. But also, it seems like there's a lot of money that's just sloshing into this place and speculating, or into the space, I should say. A lot of the Dragon Ball sets have gone up 3 times, 4 times just over the last week, where the prices were. So it's getting nuts. I actually ordered the August set. We'll try to run some events, see how much interest there is, but all of a sudden interest is sky high. Gundam, GDO1 went from $150 to $300 in a couple days because the supply dried up now. I'm sure there's going to be more that's coming to market. But even GDO2, the set that was basically selling at distribution price, is up at $114 a box. GDO3, which just came out on Friday, is pushing $145, $150 a box. So it's kind of crazy. So we just talked about Dragon Ball. I don't know anything about the game, quite honestly. Just want to talk about it for a second. The set, it's SBO1, I think, special booster, and it comes out in August. That is the set that just closed for open order. FBO9 and FB10, which I believe is the March set and the June set. The order window for those has already passed. So in normal Bandai fashion, you're 7 months out from order here, which is a little bit tighter than normal. So that's interesting. One Piece, still waiting for allocations on EBO3 from Alliance. I think GTS has given everything to everybody at this point. It's going to be an absolute, show with the boxes. I think the boxes right now are like $450 pre-order on TCG Player. But the boxes are going to be $600. What I find hilarious is there are a couple of videos today of people saying that that One Piece and their boob cards are not welcome in their card show, which I find absolutely hilarious. But it is what it is. It's your show. It's your shop. You make the rules, and I completely respect that. Doesn't mean I have to agree, but whatever. So we have not seen any allocations yet for OP15. It's probably 2 to 3 weeks away. OP17 has not opened the order window. I expect that to open in the next 2 weeks as well. OP17 is going to be the 4th anniversary set. So effectively the 2026 equivalent of OP13 for those of you that can add 4 to last year's number. So that is that. Final Fantasy, we have the order window is still open, I think, until tomorrow for Blissful Eternity, which is the August set. The Streamlike Ocean set, it looks like it's been fairly under-ordered. The price went up. Final Fantasy TCG is a nice asset to hold long-term. It's not super liquid. I know there's some big stores that deal with it. I buy a little bit of it, move a little bit of it. But Dreamlike Ocean is going to be interesting because I believe it's the 15th anniversary set. And again, the price of the boxes went from $37 to $54. I believe they're claiming it's tariff related. Most likely they're just being pigs because they can. So is what it is. Now let's get into some fun stuff. Compendium of Wrath, Flesh and Blood set. So I'm not big on Flesh and Blood, but this set, the demand was really, really light. I know in most locations, the orders were about 75% of what they were for Super Slam. Super Slam was a weak set. The sets before that were performed relatively well. Now, this is a game where a sealed product doesn't sell very well, but the singles fly. So if you're going to buy it, you're going to break singles and sell them over the first 3 weeks. It's reasonably profitable. Now, the unfortunate part is none of the card sorters, none of the big card sorters, especially the ones that I have, support Flesh and Blood. So if I'm breaking boxes, we're doing it the old-fashioned way. So I ordered 300 boxes of Compendium of Wrath. Quite honestly, because I think it was under-ordered, or Initially, I thought it was going to be underordered. They had this Antiquities pack, which I figured, maybe you get lucky to be 30, 40 bucks. And then you have the set. So, let's give it a whirl, see what happens. So turns out I'm going to get probably about 80% of what I asked for. And these antiquity packs are probably going to trade between $50 and $65. Looks like the reprints that they're putting in there are decent value. Now they've absolutely annihilated any collectors at this point. I used to collect Fab a little bit. Once I realized that the management team straight game piece army, I sold everything as quickly as I could, licked my wounds and moved on to something else. But if you are not a legacy collector and you don't have any old cards, this is going to be a really, really cool set. And I believe there are 3 to 4 cold foils per box. So I'll probably sell. I'll sell to our subs what's of interest, and then I'll just rip the rest and sell singles and see what happens. It's always good to add another game with some volume under your belt for your distributor. It's good fun. So moving on, Godzilla, Rudy's favorite card game. So BP04 Endless Wars just closed. I ordered about the same as I've ordered for the first 3 sets, right around 200 boxes. BPO1, BPO2, they're selling well, they're performing well. BPO3 just released on Friday, and this was very, very under-ordered, and there's some really, really cool chases in here. What's interesting is if you look at it on any website, they don't talk about it. They don't publish anything here. Like, it literally just says this, but you have 100 signed cards that are super rare chase cards. I think there was one that sold on eBay from BPO2 that sold for like $2,000, $3,000, something like that. Yeah, pretty good price. But the boxes are sitting at $65 on TCG Player post-release. They haven't crashed. We ran our sale in Discord tonight and sold, I believe, half of it already, which is an absolute record for this. I mean, I like the game. I think the cards are really cool, so I don't mind sitting on them. But also, happy to share product with everybody else. Gundam, this thing has gone absolutely parabolic. New Type Rising, the first set of booster boxes, has basically doubled in price in the last couple days. The second set has followed suit, moved from $80 a box to $115 a box. The third set came out on Friday, selling for $140, $145. Seems like it's going to be a really, really good set. So in normal Bandai fashion, it seems like things are moving in the right direction. As far as I can tell, the third set is super playable compared to the second set, and now you're starting to get synergies and you're starting to get some diversification across decks, which is going to be really, really cool. And I know there's a lot of people that whine about the cost of cards and stuff like that. The cards aren't super expensive. It's similar to One Piece where you have your super expensive chase cards, but then you have your cheap versions of your commons, uncommons, rares, where you can build a deck for a couple $100. And I know one of the big complaints early on was to be competitive, you needed cards from some of the starter decks. That is going to go away here eventually. But keep in mind, if I'm Bandai, I own the Gundam IP. I don't own One Piece. I don't own Dragon Ball. I own Gundam. So if they want any set to be super successful, it's this one, because they're not paying any royalty. This is their baby. This is kind of why I went all in from the start. And things are starting to come to fruition. And, as we've all seen in this market, when boxes go down, nobody wants them. When boxes go up, everybody wants them. And it's starting to look like everybody's going to want these. And it's going to be super interesting. So, we'll see. Orkana, not really much to talk about there. My Little Pony, I ordered My Little Pony. So with the Caillou games, with My Little Pony, they have the friendship cards, which are they're collectible cards, not TCG. This is a TCG right here. And from what I know, Caillou has about 10,000 boxes in the United States. They push them out through 3 distributors to demo the product, see how it works. I believe it was Southern, GTS, and ACD in numbers fairly relative to their size. So I ordered a bunch. We'll see what happens. I just think it's going to be super short. And then excuse me, the same with their Naruto game. Now, that is not a TCG. It is not the same as a TCG in Europe. It is just a collectible card game. And I know some of them are in big box stores. But I've had people in Discord who, they've opened it. They think it's super cool. So, ordered some of that as well. Worst case, the boxes are like $32.50 each. Or I think the collectible cards are even less, so like $27 each. So if they don't sell, they don't sell. But it's just something I wanted to mention because it's new. Riftbound. I feel like Spirit Forge has been out forever, but it doesn't come out for another couple weeks. Actually, yeah, the 13th, another couple weeks. So we'll see how it performs. Riftbound Origins continues to churn on the sealed product. I know the singles have started to take a hit, but that's what you hope when you have demand like this, because people are going to open boxes and the amount of sealed boxes is going to go down. The number of singles is going to go up. So you have an inverse relationship between the price of your sealed product and your singles, which helps the organized play and the players get their cards reasonably cheap. And the people that have sealed product, they make a bunch of money as well. Everybody's happy. So it is what it is. Moving on. Sorcery. Apparently Arthurian Legends got a restock again. I'm assuming they just printed the living crap out of it and it's sitting somewhere in a warehouse, potentially Oklahoma, with Team Covenant. I wouldn't touch it. I know Gothic's cool, but as everything in Sorcery, the value of cards and curios and all that stuff, they just erode and depreciate over time because with sets being once every 15 months at best, the hype cycle it doesn't have enough adrenaline to keep the thing going. And it just is what it is. I don't even know what this is. I just saw this. Tokidoki. That's another Caillou game. I don't know what Tokidoki is. We will look at it together. Okay, well, there you go. You know as much as I did before. No clue. So, Union Arena, not going to talk about that. Not much to talk about here. Weiss. I think I talked last week about the second half of the year and the products coming out. Really not a whole lot to talk about here. Nikki reprint, I think, is coming in March. I ordered a couple cases of this. I do want to mention that the first edition boxes are now $70 for Nikki. They are pushing $60, $65 for Azure Lane, but the cases are pushing $1,500. And then Freerin, the boxes are about to go parabolic. It's selling 10, 15 boxes a day, and I think there's like 170 on TCG Player. So just the fact that reprint was super underordered. Now you have the second season of the anime out on Crunchyroll. People are getting interested, and it's creating tailwinds for the game, which it's nice to see. It's cool. So let's talk Pokemon. We'll end with Magic the Gathering and all this lawsuit stuff. So it is Ascended Heroes release weekend. We got the 3-pack stickers. Or the 3-pack tech stickers. I have not heard anything about a Wave 2 coming out yet. So I don't know if they're going to ship with all the stuff on the 20th or if they're going to go out past that. I do want to mention that the manufacturing stamp on the tech stickers was December 5th for the cases that I got. So they are cutting it extremely, extremely close. I would imagine that they're manufacturing themselves, although the label on the tech sticker cases is green. Normally they're white, so I don't quite know where they're coming from. All of the product I got was through UPS just because of the weight, so I didn't get a pallet. I didn't get freight just because the weight just didn't make sense. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then obviously we have ETBs, we have tins, we have the 2-pack blisters, and then we have, I think the Charizard tins as well are coming out on the 20th. Yeah, right here, the Charizard tins, which reminds me, I got to check and see what some of my allocations are, because I thought this was a March release. It's not. And then moving on to the 30th. March is going to be an absolute disaster, because you have the poster collections, you have the first partner collection. These first partner illustration collections are really, really cool. So it's 3 packs. So it looks like it's going to be a pack of Mega 1, pack of Mega 2, and then you have the first partner pack, which has 3 of potentially 9 starters. I think first gen, but there's some really cool ones. There's Charizard in there. There's a Bulbasaur and a Squirtle, I believe. In PSA 10, they're going to sell for probably $50 out the gate. So it's going to be a really, really interesting product, because it's really, I'm guessing they're only going to do one print of these, because there's going to be a Series 2 and a Series 3. Apparently there's 27 total. And this all rolls into the 30th anniversary. And then a week later, we have all the perfect order. Now, I do want to tell you guys, and I know some people have already reported this. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but I didn't do an actual video on it. I now have 3 allocations of perfect order. My booster box number is either the same as Mega 2, or it's taken a little bit of a haircut. The total number of booster boxes that distribution has gotten for this set is down. It's down like 10 to 15% versus prior sets, which in my head, alarm bells are going off, because they're printing something else. They're not printing this, and I can't wait to see what it is. I mean, obviously, I've been pretty outspoken with what I'm told it is, and, it's a reprint of that last block of Mega 1, Mega 2, and Destined. Potentially Destined. I don't know for sure Destined. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be very, very fascinating if this comes in March. Maybe it pushes to April. The beauty about Pokemon is they don't give a shit about quarters, unlike Wizards of the Coast, which they like to create this perception that they're having production issues, like Final Fantasy and the reprint coming November. And then you see the print stamp on everything is March of 2025, and they just held them back because they needed the revenue, or the parachute, if you will, in Q4. Nothing illegal about that. In fact, I highly respect it. Other than that, we have booster bundles. We have the EX boxes coming out in April. Looks like the June set, for those of you who don't know, and now I've heard 2 or 3 different set names: Crimson Blaze, Crimson something, CRI. Looks like is going to be the 3 letters. Crimson Invasion 2.0. It looks like it's going to be the Greninja set. It's also going to be a small set, but I know a lot of folks have talked about booster boxes going down because the sets are weak. But if the supply of booster boxes is down, and we've seen Destin Rivals booster boxes are $600 now, because the entire market has decided that the Pokemon Company is never going to reprint booster boxes. Again, they're wrong, but for now they're correct. So I don't see a world where perfect order booster boxes ever touch $200, or I should say below $200. They're probably going to perform a lot like Journey Together, just because there's not a whole heck of a lot out there. So that's it for Pokemon. Let's go to everybody's favorite shitty management team, which, by the way, they are actually very, very sharp financially, as I've been researching these guys for the last, I don't know how long, in my the first 2 parts of my series of Breaking Hasbro. They create their financial plan for the year, and then they start plugging sets and quantities to hit their revenue numbers. And I'm sure you guys saw a bunch of things about the lawsuit. The first lawsuit was a bunch of ambulance chasers. Throw that one out the window. The Florida firefighters, is it pension? I don't know if it's pension. I forget who the plaintiff is. That one is far more interesting. The problem is managing your production to hit your numbers is what you're supposed to do. It's your job. If they did anything wrong, they way overrepresented the health of the rest of the business, which is a bag of flaming dog poop. I am making a concerted effort to make this a little bit more PG-13. So as we can see how they're managing their earnings for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and if you guys remember, going all the way back to Final Fantasy, they started doing this thing called your guaranteed minimum allocation. And they said, we're going to give you the allocation so you can have absolute confidence that you can pre-sell the product and you're going to get it. What they were really doing is they wanted to know how much product they could sell so they could manage revenue in Q2, Q3, and Q4 of 2025. Well, Q1 of 2026 is a super low hurdle because Q1 of 2025 was garbage. It was absolutely terrible. In fact, revenue, I think, was like half of what it was in Q3. So for Turtles, they didn't do it. It's like it never happened. And then all of a sudden, we have a solicitation for Strixhaven and Marvel back to back, where they're going to do the same guaranteed minimum, whatever, because they have such a high hurdle in Q2 and Q3 for Final Fantasy. Q3, because they stuffed the channel with Spider-Man, and then they pulled the bait and switch. They're going to have to sell so much freaking product. That's also why you have the second set in Q2, because they need it. It's going to be super fascinating, but I still don't have any of my large allocations for Turtles, and just distribution can ship on the 18th. So we're 17 days away from them shipping product to me, and I don't have any idea how much product I'm getting from my big distributors, which is a little problematic. And look, I think some of it is just the fact that it's been a little bit of a mess with all these games coming out at the same time. But at the same time, it's really, really difficult to manage my revenue channels and my demand if I don't know what my supply is going to be. So anyway, Strixhaven, it's really the same sort of products that we had for Lorwyn. They even have the theme decks, but they're 5 commander decks, which is really interesting. And then we have this Codex bundle, which is 6 play boxes, 6 play packs, and 2 collector packs. So it's a little bit different than a normal gift bundle. But the distribution price is like the same as a gift bundle. So it's interesting. It's like $65, $70, something like that. But then moving to Marvel, this is like the second coming of Avatar: The Last Airbender with all the SKUs. It just makes my brain cry because you have the scene boxes, you have the Jumpstart, you have the Draft Night, which we know, 4 commander decks, which is great. We have the collector commanders again. I have such heavy bags of Final Fantasy collector commanders, and they're just sitting here, and the market is churning so slow. They're super high EV versus the price, but the singles just most of them sell less than 30 a month, so it's going to take a little while. And then we have the beginner box. I don't know if you guys opened the beginner boxes from Avatar, but it was 3 beginner boxes in literally like a 20-pound box. It was absolutely disgusting how much weight and garbage were in those things. Now I know there's a board to play on, and like it's made for beginners, but for those of us that can't necessarily move them because our players aren't beginners, these should go to big box stores. They really shouldn't come through distribution, but we got to take them anyway. But yeah, it's a lot of waste. And then the gift bundles all moved. These are coming 3 weeks after the fact for Marvel. And I thought they moved for Strixhaven. Also the Codex bundle. I don't see it moving yet. But anyway, getting back to the lawsuit here, I kind of think they're both nothing burgers. And, what they say in the lawsuit is what I've been saying for the last how long? Everybody knows it's happening. Everybody knows what they did. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing illegal with it. In fact, I respect them far more for doing it because it means that they have a plan and they're executing on the plan. Now, it may not be in the best interest of the game, but this is the problem when you have a game owned by a public company that the rest of the company's dog shit. It just is. Like, they should take the rest of the company and just give it to Mattel and sit on Wizards of the Coast, clear cut the executives, clear cut the board, and you just operate this thing, and you would just print money and dividends. But the problem is they're so fat and lazy and bloated and old. Nobody's ever going to do it at that company because everybody has a cush job. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about the shareholders. And quite honestly, the stock isn't performing terribly. It's $98. They're going to hit their Q1. They probably hit their Q4, and the problem is everybody knows that the rest of the business is garbage. So as long as Magic keeps hitting their numbers, and again, it's a tall task in Q2 and Q3, and they are going to saturate the market even more than it is now because they're going to have to. So they have to be careful of that. But it keeps working. And even though these guys keep taking the fun out of the game, they take the Commander sample pack out, you take the pre-release promos out, you take all the prize support out. They're basically taking anything out that slows down printing efficiency, which just tells you where their head's at. It's print more, make it as efficient as possible, take all the fun out of it. We're just going to give them the product they're going to buy anyway. They are destroying the brand. They're destroying the brand slowly. People are always going to buy it. The one thing I will caution everybody is the same as what I tell everybody in Discord. It's always better to deal with the devil you know, because if the company were to kind of take a dump, you could have Fanatics buy them. Which, speaking of garbage companies, those guys are terrible. Their product is absolute trash. GameStop could buy them, in which case, who knows whatever happens to Magic. And then the worst case scenario is that private equity buys them, and those snakes would burn this thing to the ground in 3 seconds because they'd lever it to the teeth, and then they'd have to sell so much product that they would kill it. Because generally speaking, private equity, they think they're really, really smart, and they are a bunch of idiots that don't know how to operate companies. They'll disagree if you ask them, but I have yet to see. I've never seen a private equity group that would actually have the discipline to run Magic the Gathering and not burn it to the ground. So, if it's in Hasbro's hands, you at least know what you have now. I kind of hope they change the executive team out. Now that's me just being selfish, but we'll see what happens. So, anyway, guys. Long-winded video for tonight. Like the video, subscribe to the subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and have a great week. We'll talk tomorrow.